This is the risky side of alcohol, but alcohol is not going to go away.
For women, it is one standard drink per day. Women get much higher concentration of alcohol with the smaller quantity of alcohol than men.
Trouble really arises when it starts taking control over your life. Everything that you want to do gets based on whether you drink or not.
It is not you who decides, but the alcohol decides that when it is to be drunk. That is alcoholism. In Hindi, they call it talab hoti hai. So they crave for it.
Alcoholism to me is more a disease of the brain rather than of the liver or any other organ.
People have higher risk of colon cancer. Ladies have high risk of breast cancer and cancer of the food pipe with alcohol.
What the psychiatrists have done, they say, ask yourself 4 questions. Have you annoyed anyone by your drinking? Do you feel guilty by your drinking? Have you ever thought of giving up alcohol? Or do you have to take alcohol to open your eyes in the morning? If the answer to any 2 of these are yes, then you are an alcoholic.
Many people feel that alcohol which is more expensive is safe. It is the absolute alcohol in a drink which matters. They think that because they have shifted from whiskey to beer, they are safe, but it's a wrong perception.
Look at the maths of it. One bottle 750 ml of beer is equal to 37.5 grams of alcohol, which is equivalent to 3 drinks.
You cannot advise anybody to start drinking for any health benefits. People hardly ever know that alcohol has the same risk of having certain cancers as smoking. It's possibly the bigger devil. If you develop cirrhosis, it is going to progress. The speed of progress will depend upon whether you continue to drink or not.
Hello and welcome to HT's weekly talk show, The Interview, and our special segment, Health with Hindustan Times. Doctors say alcohol is good for the heart, wine is healthy, beer is safe, and so on and so forth. We hear much of this from those trying to justify alcohol consumption. Quite similar to the myth we had busted in our earlier edition about vaping being safe and smoking a killer. So, what do the doctors say? What to drink, what not to touch, how much to drink, what is safe, and when and where to draw a line? We discuss this and much more in this edition of HT's weekly talk show, The Interview, in our special segment, Health with Hindustan Times. Before we begin, let me introduce our panel to our viewers. We have with us Dr. Randhir Sood, Chairman, Gastroenterology at Medanta Hospital. He brings with him over 4 decades of clinical experience in treating liver and stomach ailments. Also joining us is Dr. Subhash Gupta, Chairman, Center for Liver at Max Hospital. Among the pioneers of liver transplants in India, Dr. Gupta has trained many teams and surgeons from around the world in this area. Welcome to the show, Dr. Randhir Sood and Dr. Subhash Gupta, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Kumkumji, for having us here.
Thank you very much for having us part of this show.
Let me begin with a basic question. How safe is it to consume alcohol?
There is a common understanding. People think that it is useful and good for health to consume moderate amount of alcohol or small quantities of alcohol because of certain previous studies. But now we all know that there's no volume of alcohol which is absolutely safe. It is going to cause harm sooner or later, but there are certain safe limits which to large majority does not lead to any significant disease, but it still is better not to take alcohol.
This is the risky side of alcohol, but alcohol is not going to go away. I mean, we are not in that situation where we can say alcohol should completely be thrown out of people's life. But if you're drinking daily, morning to evening, then you are in big trouble.
So let me put it differently. What is the good, bad, and ugly of alcohol consumption?
National Institute of Health has come out with certain guidelines this year itself about what is the safe limit of alcohol. When they say safe, it means where it does not lead to any significant disease except in certain conditions. So that is, for women, it is 1 standard drink per day. For men, it is 2 standard drinks per day.
Why is that?
You know, uh, we don't realize that women have less water per kg body weight in their system, and alcohol gets distributed in the body through water, and ultimately its levels in the blood depend upon how much is the water for distribution. It's like you add the same color in a bucket of water, it's lighter, but you add the same color in a jar of water, it's darker. So women get much higher concentration of alcohol with the smaller quantity of alcohol than men.
The good first.
The good with alcohol, of course, we all know. I think we could have started the program with a drink, would have been more peppy. So that side can never go away. It's the sort of party life, friendliness, social lubricant. That's the good side of it. But the trouble really arises when it starts taking control over your life. Everything that you want to do gets based on whether you drink or not, and your friends and colleagues get after you. And it's particularly in the social situation that we live in, there's a party every day. So you drink one day, how can you not drink the next day? So these are the problems that we face every day.
Tell me the route from drinking alcohol socially and becoming an alcoholic.
The route is simple. Many people relate it to some tragedy in their life. They started off as drinking maybe once in a month, 2 in a month, and then some problems set in, and then they started sort of every day, and then sooner or later they went on to having morning to evening. And side by side there were nutritional deficiencies. They were not eating proper meals, they were not exercising, or if they had other conditions like diabetes, overweight, and lack of exercise, then you were into serious trouble. But alcoholism to me is more a disease of the brain rather than of the liver or any other organ. And people crave for alcohol, and it does obviously fulfill some need in people who are not strong enough, who are not able to deal with challenges in life, or it just seems an easy way out to drink yourself and forget all your worries.
Dr. Sood?
Yeah, I think when we talk of social drinking, it is that you are having alcohol, you're sitting with friends, then you take alcohol. But when you don't want to take, you can say, I don't want to take. That is social drinking. But when it is not you who decides, but the alcohol decides that when it is to be drunk, that is alcoholism.
Just explain this.
I'll tell you. Now, there's a person who who knows that it is harmful for his system, but he cannot resist. In Hindi they call it talab hoti hai. So they crave for it, and they have to go back to the bottle, and they have to drink alcohol, because otherwise they feel incomplete in themselves. And why this happens, as Dr. Gupta said, it is basically a behavioral problem. It originates in the mind. There are certain people with weak personalities. They feel very happy and very comfortable and courageous when they take certain amount of alcohol. Then it becomes a prop for them, psychological prop to take alcohol most of the times. And the more they take, the more they get addicted, and they can't do without alcohol. This leads initially to excessive drinking and then alcoholism. Alcoholism we will define when you are dependent on alcohol and you cannot do without it.
So what is the difference between excessive drinking and alcoholism?
See, excessive drinking is quantity related. It is defined today that if a man takes more than 5 drinks in one go, or a woman takes more than 4 standard drinks, and standard drinks is 14 grams of absolute alcohol. If you are taking a spirit like a scotch or vodka or gin, that is 40% alcohol by volume. So if you are taking one standard drink is 14 grams will mean 1.5 ounce. That is around 40-45 ml of this. And if you are taking 5 such drinks over a day, it is excessive drinking. And if a woman is taking more than 4 such drinks in a day, it's excessive drinking. They may not be dependent upon it, but a person who is craving for it every time a person is alone or person is even certain people when they get up, they want to have alcohol to even get courageous enough to go for work. That is alcoholism.
What the psychiatrists have done, they say ask yourself 4 questions. Have you annoyed anyone by your drinking? Do you feel guilty by your drinking? Have you ever thought of giving up alcohol? Or do you have to take alcohol to open your eyes in the morning? If the answer to any two of these are yes, then you are an alcoholic.
Quantities apart, which alcohol is safe and what is a complete no-no? And what are the myths associated with alcohol?
See, the biggest myth is that there are certain types of alcohol which are safe, and many people feel that alcohol which is more expensive is safe. It is the absolute alcohol in a drink which matters. In a wine, it is 11% to 14%. In beer, it is 4.5% to as high as 11%, depending upon the strong beers which are prevalent today. And in spirits, is on average, it's 40%. So it is not the type of beverage like wine or whiskey or beer, but the quantity of alcohol. Having said that, certain beverages like beer or wine, which have less quantity of concentration of alcohol, the alcohol concentration or the peak concentration of the blood rises more slowly. So there is less harm to the body created by them acutely. Chronic damage will be there, but acute, damage which is behavioral, like accidents, like self-harm and social aggression, that is less with these drinks than with spirits. Because you take this as 2 glasses of wine slowly, that will raise your blood alcohol level more slowly than 2 spirit drinks.
Beer drinking is by volumes. You take 750 ml of beer, you'll probably, this is equivalent to 3 small drinks of whiskey.
So, to say that beer is safe is not correct.
Yeah, that's not true. For what Dr. Sood is saying, that of course, if you drink beer, you will not have aggressive behavior, you may not have the social digression, or you will not have sexual, related issues. But in terms of damage to the body, because the amount of alcohol going in the body is there, it has to be processed through the liver damage is the same.
You see, this is because of this wrong perception. Many people feel when we tell them to stop drinking, they think stopping drinking means the stopping spirits or whiskey. So they think that because they have shifted from whiskey to beer, they are safe, but it's a wrong perception. The other myth is about this is an imported scotch and malt, so it's not going to harm my liver, and it's not a IMFL. So they think that there is safer. It's absolutely wrong. It's the quantity of alcohol which I emphasize is important, not the the cost of the beverage or the type of beverage.
So, beer drinking is not the same as Dr. Sahab, maine sharab chhod di hai.
Not at all. Not at all.
And it can be more damaging?
Well, if the person's perception is that it is not alcohol, then person keeps on drinking more and will be more damaging.
When they say they drink beer, they drink by the bottle, and sometimes I see them drinking 4-5 bottles in a day, and they say we don't drink at all. Absolutely. I'm just only drink beer. We look at the maths of it. 1 bottle, 750 ml of beer is equal to 37.5 grams of alcohol, which is equivalent to 3 drinks.
100 ml of whiskey.
What about the perception that doctors say, 1-2 drink तो अच्छा होता है और जरूर पीना चाहिए क्योंकि वो सेहत के लिए अच्छा होता है?
There was a time when there were these studies from Scandinavia mostly, which were population-based studies, which showed that people who drink modestly, that about 7-8 drinks a week, standard drinks, that the people who drink have lived longer, have happier lives. But those were not very well conducted studies, and they did not look at all the factors. But now, with the more stringent scientific data, it's very clear that any amount of alcohol does harm to the body. But yes, up to what we say safe limits, the harm is minuscule, unless you have certain conditions.
Let me put this in a slightly different manner. We cannot now say that alcohol is good for the health. The evidence is that alcohol is not good for your health. So, like red wine.
My next question was on wine.
Yeah.
That you said beer is not okay, alcohol, spirits. What about wine?
In fact, this was assumed earlier that in Mediterranean diet, because that's one of the benefits is because in Mediterranean diet people do drink red wine with it, and red wine is healthy for the body. It's not so. It's that if it is taken beyond certain limits, it causes the same harm as spirits will do. And you cannot advise anybody to start drinking for
Health reasons.
for any health benefits. There's no such condition.
So, this doctors say you can drink is a myth.
Is the sentence which the husband tells his wife.
Okay. All right. Well put. Now, is it true that alcohol is better, and I'm underlining the word better, than smoking or vaping?
I don't think so, because alcohol, as you know, smoking leads to one major side effect, that's lung related, and there's cancer of the esophagus as well as the cancer of the lung. But alcohol has multiple problems, right from social to psychological to liver disease to increased risk of cancer. In fact, people hardly ever know that alcohol has the same risk of having certain cancers as smoking. So it is not safe at all.
So, it's not a lesser devil.
No, it's possibly the bigger devil.
I think vaping, we don't know. I think definitely has lung damage, but they are completely separate categories. And to say that because I don't smoke, I'm okay for me to take alcohol, I think that's not correct.
So, just to simplify, 1, 2, 3, 4, how does alcohol adversely affect health?
See, alcohol has basically two types of problems. One is acute. You take too much of alcohol in one go, you will have certain issues. Binge drinking can lead to pancreatitis and acute liver failure. In fact, there is higher risk to life with excessive single-time drinking and binge drinking than with excessive chronic drinking, because then your car accidents, self-harm like burns and all this happens with binge drinking. On the other hand, with chronic drinking, you do get early dementia. You tend to have tremors. You tend to have withdrawal symptoms, and then you tend to have liver damage, which is the most important in chronic pancreatitis.
Problem I find nowadays is that the parents themselves, they are encouraging drinking. Unlike our times, I think it was impossible for us to have a drink in presence of our parents. What we are seeing is complete restriction, taboo, everything's gone. So people are drinking at a much younger age. People are starting at getting liver disease at the age of 20. So what age did they start drinking then?
No, I had a girl who was actually came from Amsterdam. Her father had a pub there. And this girl was just a toddler when she started drinking, because there were leftover drinks in the bar. And she came to me with a florid liver disease by the age of 20, and she narrated this. She said the people used to leave part of the drink and I used to drink it from them.
You spoke about binge drinking.
Yeah.
So, let me request you or classify the different kinds of drinking: social drinking versus pure alcoholics, binge drinking, and high intensity drinking.
See, I told you social drinking is defined now that for ladies. So you read the label of you got wine which is 11%. So 150 ml of that wine will make 14 grams of absolute alcohol. Similarly, spirits will be 40-45 ml of a spirit. 40% alcohol will be a standard drink. And similarly, 350 ml of wine, beer will be a standard drink. But it is not one day. It's over a week. And not less than 3 days. It means you cannot say that I took 4 in one day. That's not social drinking. So this must be understood. Binge is when you take 4 drinks for a lady and 5 standard drinks for a male in less than 2 hours is what is binge drinking. That raises suddenly the blood alcohol level concentration to a very high level, which is very harmful. They are having a party, and then there's a peer pressure, and particularly when you start having these tequila shots, you don't know when you cross that limit, and then self-automation happens after a certain number of drinks when people do not even realize how many they had. And that is what leads to the damage.
Is self-automation a medical term or a medical problem?
It is a medical problem. How do you control your alcohol? I've taken 1, no, I'm not going to take another. Or you're taken 2, I'm okay, I'm not going to take another. But if you go beyond a limit, then you lose that control.
You spoke about high-density drinking.
High-intensity drinking. So what is happening is, one is, of course, all the binge drinking, you're not allowed to drive. But you can still cause yourself harm by doing things that, your behavior can become aggressive. Binge drinking, very popular in UK, is that on Friday night, because you just finished work and you went from one pub to another, you kept drinking and, So within that same short period, you want to have as much drinks as you can.
So, are you saying, and as I understand it, that high density drinking is somehow replacing binge drinking?
I think
Yes or no?
the binge drinking used to be that people who were, the classical term of binge drinking were people who would not have drunk the whole week. They completely throughout the week they're sober. Weekend they catch up on their 21 units allowed. But high intensity is what probably is happening, which Dr. Su is also referring to, that once you start taking enough tequila shots, you lost your control and you just go on and all till you crash out. That high intensity drinking is slightly different from binge drinking in the sense that you are drinking far too much in too little less a time.
In India, what is more popular?
You see, amongst teenagers, amongst ladies, binge drinking is very popular, and it is becoming very popular amongst females as well as teenagers.
Dr. Sood, you've been talking and emphasizing a lot on women and men and distinguishing between the two. So, I take it that alcohol is not gender neutral.
No.
What are the do's and don'ts for women and for men?
If I have to give same amount of alcohol to a 60 kg man and 60 kg woman, the blood concentration will be much higher in a woman. And so the possibility of all types of harms will be more in a woman. Second is that woman who's trying to be pregnant or who is pregnant should always abstain from alcohol, because it also decreases the fertility. And once you're pregnant, then there's a definite harm to the fetus. So it has to be prevented. Then if woman is lactating, feeding the baby, the alcohol is no, because we have there are certain evidences that they can harm the newborn, and it is not to be taken. As far as men are concerned, it is basically the quantity, the speed. There's something known as too much too soon. So that's also very important. When you take too much very early, your blood concentration goes up very fast. It's like a spike, and that causes problems. And similarly, you take too much volume, again the same thing. And there is also certain thing related with food and taking empty stomach. When you take alcoholic beverages empty stomach, it gets absorbed very quickly. And once you take with the food, whether it is carbohydrate diet or protein diet or fatty food, there's a myth that it causes less damage if you take it with proteins. It is not so. Then the absorption is slower and the spike is slower.
Does it affect fertility in men?
It does. It does. Where, in fact, not only fertility, even small quantity of alcohol, sexual desire. And larger quantity of desire is sexual desire, but no sexual performance. So it does affect sexual act. It does affect fertility.
What I would like to add, apart from gender, I find that diabetics, and I find them drinking just as freely as a normal person. So diabetes per se may be very mild in them, but combined with alcohol, I think they end up with liver disease very quickly.
So diabetics should not drink alcohol.
That would be my recommendation.
Well, there's a reason why it's, today, the commonest cause of fatty liver is diabetes.
I was coming to fatty liver, in fact. I wanted you to explain it and to take us through that.
See, fatty liver is a condition today which most of the people will come to know once they go to an ultrasonologist and get their ultrasound report, and it will be grade 1, grade 2 or grade 3 fatty liver. And this happens in people who are obese, people who have got high cholesterol or triglycerides particularly, or people who are diabetic. 85% of the diabetics will have fatty liver, or people what we call have metabolic syndrome, 1 or 2 of these factors. Now the same person, if he starts drinking alcohol, he has fatty liver due to something like what Dr. Gupta said about diabetics. So if the same person starts drinking alcohol, then it becomes a met ALD, that alcohol plus metabolic factors damaging the liver. So they should avoid alcohol Definitely.
Only diabetics or any others also?
All fatty livers. They should, restrict and avoid alcohol as much as possible.
Let me ask you to help decode the symptoms that alcohol, whether it is social or binge or whatever, is getting out of hand and becoming a medical problem. Where is that alarm bell? At what point should a social drinker
Yeah.
say this far and no further, or I'm in trouble?
This is the Lakshman Rekha. When you start, feeling a craving for alcohol every day and you feel that you cannot do without it, or when you get up in the morning, you start having trembling hands and you look for your drink, that is a very important sign. Second, if you are entering into social misbehavior after drinking, that again is a very important sign that you are taking too much. And third is that you are getting into inappropriate behavior, whether it's social inappropriate behavior or driving while drinking. That means you're losing sense of
Proportion.
the proportions. These are the first signs. But problem is that alcohol damages the liver very silently. People do not know till they become very sick, because liver doesn't cry, it doesn't cause any pain. And it's only when they start getting very advanced symptoms of jaundice, fluid in the abdomen, or blood vomiting, then they realize the liver is damaged. So that's the biggest problem, that it can kill you silently.
And one of the problems that we faced with these people who are into alcohol, they'll have some raised in liver enzymes. We will tell them, please stop drinking now. We'll stop for a few months maybe, and they're back to it again. And that I find is the worst category, because they then have accelerated damage to their liver.
What about liver cirrhosis? The symptoms, the different stages before we get into the treatment and cure.
Yeah. See, liver cirrhosis means that liver has become very hard. So it changes its structure and its function becomes greatly compromised. We scientifically call it, we say child A, child B, child C. Child A is which is the early stage, when person can function normally, but the liver is damaged. It's like your car is on reserve. It's not that you have got full tank of petrol, but this car is on reserve, and you spend that, you're gone. So then the liver disease, when it advances, then you start having symptoms of jaundice, you start having symptoms of fluid in the tummy, your feet start swelling up, and then your blood tests show abnormalities in coagulation. Then you go into child B and then child C, when these things become even worse. So the people with late child B or C need to see Dr. Gupta, because stopping alcohol alone will not help.
Not help at all.
And at what stage do they need to see you?
When they they can't stop alcohol, and they're first told that their enzymes are bad, or that's the time when something can be done.
I think he just has to tell them that I'll send you to Dr. Subhash Gupta. They stop
Yes.
drinking.
So at what point will you start treating it, and how fatal is it, and is it fatal?
Well, yes, if you develop cirrhosis, it is going to progress. It's never going to be static. The speed of progress will depend upon whether you continue to drink or not. And if you stop drinking, then your speed of progress may become slow. And instead of 4 years or 5 years, you may live 15 years without thinking of advanced liver disease. But it is going to progress, because you have already gone that far. So the basic role for us comes much before that, when it's not damage control, it is prevention. So that's if a person is taking more excessive amount of alcohol, prevention is the time when we can save their liver from getting permanently damaged. And once they are cirrhotic, then of course we have to deal with the complications of cirrhosis and try to maintain them in as best health as possible for as long as possible, till they reach a stage when we think that they are in great danger of dying within 1 year. Then we send them for a transplant.
So it is fatal.
It is fatal.
And what is the percentage?
Oh, every cirrhotic, unless treated, will die because of the cirrhosis, unless he is dying of any other associated disease.
Illness. So the important message here is that even particularly with alcohol related cirrhosis, not so for other causes, that just by stopping drinking and lifestyle, you can have a long innings of life, and in between you will have a few problems. You may have some bleeding. Dr. Sood can handle with endoscopy and they may have some low platelet which you can control by splenic artery embolization. But the key treatment is stopping
Yeah.
alcohol,
Which doesn't happen.
which
Doesn't
sometimes
happen in
very
large
difficult.
majority.
Mm.
Abstinence is the key.
Very difficult. People have recovered, gone back to drinking. And
You were telling me that those who have liver transplant think that they can go back to drinking, but that's not so. So just take me through and decode the stages of all this and the liver transplant and what it is, the why and how.
First is, if you've had transplant for alcoholic liver disease, and somebody, whether it's a diseased donor or a living donor, their family have gone out of the way to donate an organ for you, at least show some respect to them. Don't start drinking again. This is one way of looking at it. But medically, of course, the transplanted organ is a little bit fragile, not as good as what God has given us, and they're more prone to damage. So if you carry on, if you go back to drinking after you've had a transplant, then your liver will pack up faster than it would have otherwise packed up. But having said that, there, once in a while, once in a year, some occasion, some event, it's not as if it's like complete poison to have even a drop or a sustained period of time. But if you go back to what you were doing before, obviously that is not good.
But now there is data from US that there's significant increase in rise in number of females drinking and teenagers drinking, in spite of all the stringent laws. Well, that is happening, and that is leading to more health issues than ever.
What about India?
India, the same trend is happening.
50% of liver disease from alcohol that we see.
Ratio between men and women?
Oh, it used to be something like 90-10 initially. In fact, we used to be very hesitant in asking a lady whether you drink or not. Now we know that they must be drinking. We ask them very clearly, and majority of the time they will come out very frankly that yes, they drink. But yes, heavy drinking is still less common in females. Binge drinking is far more common in ladies.
Before I wind up, let's talk about cancer and drinking, cancer and alcohol, which is now recently being talked about.
People have higher risk of colon cancer. Ladies have higher risk of breast cancer and cancer of the food pipe with alcohol. And this risk is real. And people who have their relatives, say somebody's parents or brother or sister, elder sister, had colon cancer, should not drink, because they will have higher risk of developing cancer. And similarly for ladies, if somebody in the family like mother, sister had breast cancer, they should understand that this is going to be a very risky proposition for them.
But why is cancer and alcohol being talked about now much more than it ever was?
Because there's so many causes of cancer that alcohol as the solitary cause of cancer has been recognized of late, and it has not been emphasized. That's why there is a strong push to put up similar type of advertisements on the bottles of alcohol as it is on the cigarette cartons, as to deter people from drinking.
Dr. Gupta?
As medical professionals, we knew it for a long time, but the Surgeon General of US has issued a warning that alcohol should be regarded as a carcinogenic agent. That's a clever way of doing it. They are saying that alcohol is damaging by instilling fear of cancer. But yes, as Dr. Sood said, many cancers are related to alcohol, and because in the West and also in India to some extent, alcohol and smoking sometimes go hand in hand. So as a result, you are in double trouble, and you'll end up with alcohol, oral cavity cancers.
One last word, Dr. Sood.
Well, I say that alcohol is there. There's no reason for somebody who is not drinking to start drinking for health reasons, because there's none with it. If you are drinking, drink responsibly, and drink not more than 7 small drinks for a lady and not more than 14 small drinks for a man in a week, scattered over a week.
Dr. Sood, women are not going to forgive you.
but they will once they see the health benefits.
Okay. Dr. Randhir Sood, Dr. Subhash Gupta, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.